Hi everyone. This is the recreation of Mitre Square and the Eddowes murder. What I'm showing on the red line is PC Harvey's beat as described, and as we can see, this would be PC Watkins' beat. Now, what I do is I've measured the distance of each of these beats. We know that PC Harvey testifies he had last checked the time at the post office, which I believe is here, and it was 1:28. Given his descriptions of where he is, roughly in Church Passage from his patrol here until Morris shows up. From other aspects, we know Morris doesn't show up until after Watkins arrives at this point. Working out PC Harvey's patrol speed in order to get him from 1:28 there until about the time Morris shows up has PC Harvey a bit of a glue foot, and his patrol speed works out to about 1.7 miles per hour, which is very slow and certainly slower than regulation speed. I've recently found out that the regulation speed for nighttime patrols was closer to 3 miles per hour than 2.5. So Harvey's looking like he's, at about half speed. I have at times tried to work out him patrolling faster, and at about 1:30 when the rain starts, or possibly has started, maybe he takes shelter here for a few minutes and then continues at a faster pace. That would eat up time, making his overall patrol look like it was at a slower speed. If I do that, however, the distance he covers from Church Passage until Morris could show up places him outside of where he testifies. He says he's between these two locations heading in this direction. Keeping it at the average estimated speed of 1.7, as you'll see, places him where he says he is on these other points on the map at about the right times. So it looks like he was just patrolling slower than usual. Perhaps he had to stop a lot at various places, although I can't see much for him to check here. It could be he's delayed, maybe checking doors and whatever. But roughly the speed we've got him at, although slow, ends up putting him in the correct or testified to places. Now for Watkins, here he states it takes him, his patrol was 14 minutes from the time he had last patrolled Mitre Square. So again, I've just measured this distance on some of the maps and worked out the speed he would have been patrolling at if that took 14 minutes, and it's about 2.18 miles per hour, so just shy of 2.2. That to me seemed okay, because I was under the impression it was 2.5 was regulation. That's pretty close. He seems to be a little bit slow. Again, it was raining at one point. There's a heavy shelter. Perhaps he's a bit delayed. Perhaps it's slower than usual because it's late and they're wet and miserable. Leve and Lawende, if that's how you say their names, appeared about 1:30, they say, getting ready to leave the club. They wait somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes before heading off. I've got them delayed in this simulation for the full 5 minutes, the longest time they stayed. The Church Passage couple, which is a potential sighting of Eddowes and JTR, after Lawende and Leve and Harvey, I think his name was, head off this way. 10 seconds later, they move off to where the crime scene is. There are alternatives. If the Church Passage couple is not Eddowes and JTR, they could be hiding. They could have been sheltering from the rain here, possibly here, getting in. I haven't covered those options simply because this is the one we have the most information about and often gets talked about a lot. So we're working with the assumption here, which may be unfounded, that the church passage couple is Eddowes and JTR. Out of interest, I've got them coming from here, near St. Botolph's. Eddowes had been previously seen heading towards Houndditch when she was released from the jail. So if she simply had come down Houndsditch, was hanging out around St. Botolph's, which was apparently a location that was used often by unfortunates for soliciting. If that's where she meets JTR, they could head along and come to here. I've included that simply to have them come from somewhere. It certainly isn't an established fact. When P.C. Harvey eventually will arrive and patrol Church Passage, I'm using that, which I believe he testifies is around 1:41. When that happens, I use that as a trigger for JTR to possibly have escaped out through Mitre Street. He could just dash around this corner as P.C. Harvey comes up. There is a lamp at the end of this passage. At nighttime, if you're looking towards a light source, it's virtually impossible to see beyond it into the dark. He would not have seen Jack leave at that point. I can't see Jack heading out this way at that point because he's heading towards P.C. Harvey. He's going to go this way, at which point he could either head north or south. When he leaves, he's moving at an average walking speed of, I believe, 3.1 miles per hour. Running would make more noise, draw attention, that kind of thing. So he's just going to walk out. Running obviously means he moves faster. You'd probably set that at 6.1 miles per hour. The other option is that Jack doesn't notice Harvey till he's getting pretty close, so he waits it out, and when Harvey turns around and is leaving, Jack then might scoot off this way. So that's the St. James passageway. Obviously he could also have gone this way, but I've covered those with his earlier departure. And the last option, the only other exit out of Mitre Square, is through Church Passage again, which I don't think he would even attempt until Harvey has rounded the corner. So I have the final escape as being out this way. I don't think this happens. It's movie stuff. But to cover all possible bases, I've included it anyway. From the time P.C. Watkins arrives, discovers the body, I just show him staying here, but he would have run across. He grabs Morris. Morris gets his stuff. So I've got a little delay. The exact duration I've forgotten. It's probably a minute or so. And then Morris runs out and heads down this, blowing his whistle. And at that point, Harvey had testified he was heading this way. So that's where he needs to be if the patrol speed is accurate, and that's where he ends up. So I've kind of given the game away. But yes, so that's where the simulation will end. It's 18 minutes, I believe, of real time. I'll just play it at a fairly slow speed because doesn't take too long. If I would just shut up. So let's let this go. And again, one other thing is if we go with Leve's time for when they shifted off 3 minutes, then that would give the Church Passage couple an extra 2 minutes at the crime scene, giving more time for the murder to take place. So this is the least amount of time that the Church Passage couple could possibly have. And here we go. So I've got Blenkinsop on his patrol. The Church Passage couple is now coming in from over in this direction. I probably should have started them there. P.C. Harvey and Watkins are patrolling. Lawende and Co. are waiting for the rain to stop. Watkins has now left Mitre Square. It's empty, allowing the Church Passage couple to enter at any point now. Or Eddowes and Jack could have entered from any of the other locations not being covered. So there's plenty of time now. My view is they're unlikely to have moved until the rain stopped, which is indexed by Lawende and co leaving. This is now, they're at the crime scene. This is when the murder is happening, and we have the least amount of time in this simulation. PC Harvey and Watkins are doing their beats. Now here comes Harvey. He's coming now down towards his patrol of Church Passage, which I believe he testifies to be around 141. And at the speed that I've estimated him, that's exactly when he enters, and JTR flees. Now that southern route is awfully risky. He could have been... and given the errors and estimations of positions and things, I think that's probably cutting it fine enough we could rule that out. All of the other options, however, I think kind of work. Here comes Morris blowing his whistle, and Harvey is roughly where he says he was, heading towards the post office again, having rounded that corner when he signaled. So, that's about as close as I can get to something that seems to fit the data. The patrol speeds are a bit slow. That could be due to delays along the way. Apart from that, everything seems to fit pretty well. I hope you enjoyed.